Since the season, or at least the pre-season, has now officially started not just in NA but also in EU, we have to touch the first drama of the season and this expansion, which is also taking place in EU, so we were cordial enough to wait the beginning of the season in here as well before talking about this, which is the drama of the 4-day bans being handed out for the exploiters. Now let's add a little bit of context on this exploit. A few days ago, one member from Liquid Mave, pointed out that while multi-boxing, leveling multiple characters, because poor guys, he was left out of all of the remaining Liquid's leveling parties, so he was all on his own, multi-boxing realized that multi-boxing multiple characters turning in quests at the same time actually gave you stacking reputation. Now, as you know, in this expansion, nowadays the reputation is warband-wide for most of the rep, which means that if your main character completes one of the story chain quests that gives you the 500 rep token, when you go and do the very same story with an alt, and then a second alt, and then a third alt, you don't get that 500 rep token. However, what if you are multi-boxing, which is not, by the way, against the terms of service, it's not a bannable offense, as long as you're not using bots or macros to automate all of the movements. What if you have, for example, 3 or 4 different characters and you are turning in those 500 rep quests close to at the same time? The result, he discovered, was that the Blizzard servers were not updating your character, your warband, fast enough, and you ended up getting the same rep on every single character. And because every single character is tied to the same warband, your warband was getting that rep multiple times. So instead of getting 500 rep for 4 characters, you were getting 2000 rep for 4 characters. And the more characters you add, the more you could do this with. This entire logic of the Blizzard servers are slow to update, so you can get away with this sort of quest turning on multiple characters, got extended even more. Back overseas, we are no longer in NA with Liquid, now we are back in EU with Echo. Here you see Gingy. What Gingy does here is he realizes that he has taken the weekly quest from the 3 different NPCs of the Severed Threads, the General, the Vizier and the Weaver, and he realizes that if he splits his 3 characters across the 3 weeklies and turns in the quest on the 3 different guys at the same time, he gets the rep from all of them. And this was what was used, this rep turn in with the Severed Thread was what was used to skyrocket the Renown with that faction. Now, we only mentioned one guy from Liquid, one guy from Echo. The bulk of this exploiting was done from Method. You had, multiple characters getting to at or above 22, 23, even 24 Renown with the faction. Now, getting to 24 Renown is quite the checkpoint. Not only do you get to 19 Renown, getting a free 597 item level trinket, then you get to 24 and you get the free heroic item level crafting crest, which saves you a bunch of heroic level crests for crafting. And this level of slight advantage for players who have to bring up 5 or even 10 different characters for splits can play quite a difference. Now, the surprising point about this exploit is that it was known for a while. This is not something that came up yesterday or a couple of days ago. It is more than a week old, and considering the expansion is barely 2 weeks old, it is a pretty well-known exploit. After all, when one of the world-first raiders happily displays this exploit on stream live for everyone to see days ago, it's kind of hard for that to go unnoticed. So it wasn't some sort of hipster, underground, unknown, super secret type of cheat players were doing. It has been known for a while. Now, just yesterday, around the Race to World First Discord server, you got the message from a Blizzard dev pointing out that they were going down on this. This was not going to be acceptable. It's not a step, of course, they take lightly, but the game integrity demands that there be consequences beyond just rolling back the gains. So now, we're not just going to bring you back to some Renown 15 or something with the Severed Threads, we have to also issue a punishment. Now, the punishment Blizzard chose for this exploiting is now confirmed to be a 4-day ban for all of the accounts whose characters were involved. Now this, of course, is where the second part of the drama comes in, because a 4-day ban is a rather short ban for this type of exploiting. By default, you should have gotten a minimum of a week to a maximum usually of a month or so. So the fact that this duration is a peculiar 4-day long ban, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder that now we have just gotten into the heroic week. Meaning that if you banned them for a week, you would have practically made them useless for the mythic progress, right? Most of these were players from top 2, top 3, top 4 even guilds in the world with 5 to 10 characters ready to run splits in heroic in this week to be ready for the mythic progression. So if you ban them for a week, they were practically not even usable. But if you ban them just for 4 days. On top of that, these bans started on Tuesday in EU, so even 1 day earlier before the reset. It means by Friday they will be unbanned and they will be able to play the week before the Mythic release, meaning they will be able to go into splits, they will be able to run Mythic Zeros, they will be able to get geared up and then be ready for Mythic Week. Yes, it's definitely a hassle and they're definitely being slowed down. They might have to rethink or replan or retime their splits because some of their players will be banned for Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, so they will have to perhaps delay them to Sunday, Monday and Tuesday. But the characters will definitely still be playable, they will still be usable and manageable for the progression of the raid. So technically what Blizzard did in a ban was not really cause any major damage. As mentioned, all they had to do was just dish out a 1 week long ban and these characters were out of the race for progression. This soft hand by Blizzard has been noticed, particularly by players who have been hit before by these kind of bans like Liquid. Some of the players, without making names, Dryny, THD or Atlas, were not particularly happy that other guilds seem to have been given a different treatment when it comes to dealing with exploiting. And this has been a complaint in the past also by some of these high-level players, the fact that Blizzard seems to have too soft of a hand when it comes to high-end race to world first raiders due to the exposure and the viewership they bring to the game, meaning that if we actually were to enforce the rules and ban all of these players, we would be hurting ourselves. It's like if the new director of the Oktoberfest enforced moderate drinking during the event and tried to kick out everyone who was slightly overly drunk. That's not very good for business. And this is something that tends to feed on itself, this issue, because, you know, the top world first raiders are trying to do everything they can to maximize their gains, their power gains, whether it is more sockets, better enchants, free gear from Renown or from reputations. Some of them eventually discover an exploit which allows them to get these gains faster or easier. Blizzard notices it and then they have to ask themselves, do we actually ban them? Because if they do, we kind of screw over the entire race. So the players realize Blizzard is not doing anything because they don't want to screw up the race, so they get bolder and bolder and keep using these exploits more and more often because they know in the end that Blizzard isn't really going to do anything too drastic. And this seemed to be another rather clear case of this happening. The fact that these bans were definitely too short, especially given how happily in the open this exploit was committed. Sometimes, sometimes an exploit wasn't even known from Blizzard, like for example being able to bypass the private auras during Neltarion, which Echo did in Aberrus. Blizzard didn't even know Echo was doing that, so they couldn't even punish them if they wanted to. But in this case it was quite blatant and flagrant and in the open, and a 4-day ban is quite a short punishment for this. We will see, of course. Can't wait to see whoever loses from the race or perhaps does not perform as expected, blame it on getting some of their players banned for this exploiting, claiming it to be unfair. However, at the very least, we can now rest easy and peaceful knowing that we have gotten our first piece of drama at the beginning of the season. I'll let you know, of course, what would be your take on this, whether or not the ban was justified, if it wasn't, and if it was justified, if it was still too short for a ban. But for today, though, on this Wednesday, we can now leave each other. Now, we don't have to leave each other for too long, though, since nowadays I'm also live on Twitch, streaming the release of the season. You can check out straight from the stream link down below, or even join in the Discord to get notified every time the stream goes live. And beyond this, we are now leaving each other, thanking, of course, everyone who has watched the video, together with everyone who is supporting for free by liking and commenting down below, as well as subscribing to the channel itself. Now, with these things out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, yeah, it's getting better, but the sleep schedule is still a few hours off, though.